Welcome to GabTalks, where we provide tools, tips, and techniques to help your life and business be easier, better, and faster. Thank you so much for joining us for this very special episode of GabTalks Success Tips from Experts. It has been our great honor and distinct pleasure to interview these amazing experts and bring them to you. And we hope that you find value in each of these episodes that we have been sharing with you. In this episode, we thought that we would take a moment to review from each of them the question, what is it that was a major influence in you becoming the expert that you are? Thanks for listening. Alexi?
The truth is, after going through a lot of failures, successes, and somewhere in between, I realized that the most successful people that I knew, they are successful by themselves, but not without help. And that's where I realized that I potentially needed some help to get through my blocks that I did not see. Because if I don't know the path, it's hard to see the potholes. And so, for example, there's so many people that I can mention, like Denny Johnson and Mike Dillard, who were pivotal in my growth. I would say the person that stands out the most is actually Joe Bauer. Joe Bauer allowed me to really understand that I could be just me, share my truth, share my heart, and how people, as a result of it, I didn't have to be somebody else. I didn't have to be another sales guru or a guru. I can just share my truth and get compensated for it while helping people do better in their lives.
Bill McCarthy.
Well, I've always had a passion to serve, and I always had a feeling that people were all the same and that we needed to be united. And so that's why we created the Unity Foundation 46 years ago. And we work with the UN on specific projects, as well as organizations around the world. We do things that we have a television show in its 25th year called Positive Spin that presents positive news from all over the world. And you can see it almost anywhere in the United States. We also have 5 international webcasts for Women's Day, Earth Day, Refugee Day, Peace Day, and Human Rights Day. And that reaches millions of people around the world, also with positive news, people that are making a change in the world. People are coming together to create a better world for everyone.
Miss Sue Wilhite.
So I gave notice at work because I decided that I was going to be a hypnotherapist. And I was so lucky that one of the premier hypnotherapy schools in the region was, or in the nation, was in my region. I ended up not going to the guy who actually helped my ulcer. I went to somebody who had been in business for 20 or 30 years, taught people all over the world. She was so knowledgeable, and she had this lovely balance of here's the anatomy, here's the chemistry, here's what's going on in the neuroscience, here's what's going on. And oh, by the way, there's miracles, and there's spirit, and there's a bigger thing than we know about that comes into this. So she had this lovely balance of left brain, right brain approach to hypnotherapy. And I took every class for a year and a half. I took everything she had. And it was amazing. It just absolutely set the foundation of my interest in mind-body connections.
Ms. Jennifer Lyle.
So when I was in that moment where I was not happy with the way my business was going, I remember listening to a summit. And on the summit, this woman shared about her story of how she just surrendered to figure out what was the next step for her on her journey. And that was something that really stood out with me. And so I remember having this moment where I just gave myself permission. It was March of 2010. And it was 6 a.m. The house was pitch black. Everyone was quiet. Everyone was asleep. And I just gave myself permission to figure out what made my heart sing. And that opened up this spiritual wonderland where I discovered so many different things about meditation, about using a pendulum, about using oracle cards and crystals. And that really set me on a trajectory that I would never have explored before. So it helped me with starting to trust and listen to that intuitive guidance that was inside of me and build that belief in myself over time.
Jay Fairbrother.
Yeah, that's an easy one for me because my answer is other entrepreneurs. So I was involved in an organization called the Entrepreneurs Organization. It used to be called Young Entrepreneurs back when we were all young. And I was involved in that here in Pittsburgh I was on the board for a decade and president twice, and involved in that organization for even longer. And part of what you get in that organization is the opportunity to meet with, we call them forum peer groups, where a group of 9 to 10 entrepreneurs get together every month for a 3 or 4 hour meeting. And your sole purpose is to help each other grow your businesses and become better entrepreneurs. And I've been in many of those peer groups over the last 25 years, and they've had the most impact on me than anything else I've ever done as an entrepreneur. Any conference, course, books, anything. I've just had so much more impact. So my answer to the question is just hanging out with other entrepreneurs who are all going through the same struggles as you are.
Lori Seymour.
Her name was Dawn, and she wasn't out in the public eye. She was to a certain degree because I found her, but she was very much of she was so connected with energy, and she had been doing her own inner research for decades, and then brought together this group of people, about 50 of us, who stayed with her and we were doing our own inner research on how was it or what was it to receive these new energy activations, if you will,
yeah,
and how that changed our lives. And for me, that light switch moment was one of the first experiences I had with her, where I really felt, I really felt this kind of missing piece in me land and feel so complete, and like self-doubt, which had been a big issue for me. And I was out there, I was very successful. It wasn't like I couldn't be successful, but it was the self-doubt of, I feel like there's more. I feel like there's more for me, but maybe not, because I guess that's not true, because I'm looking around and I don't get that fed back to me. And so the light switch moment was feeling in my own body that moreness. And I literally could not go back from that. I changed everything in my life.
Michelle Ricketts.
Absolutely. Well, it actually goes way back. And for a lot of business owners, their inspiration is another business owner. Mine was actually my high school coach, Cecilia Carter Smith. She's a former Olympian, a strong woman, much like my mother was. And she really guided me in the early years in high school and from there forward to stay connected with her for some time and really sort of see how she did things, really strong-willed, but really also being able to connect with others and teach people how to do things. And she really was an influence on me from that time.
Mr. Robert Butwin.
Part of how that led to that, and it came across in what my defining moment was coming across a cassette tape series by Wayne Dyer. And it was called No Limit Person. And let me give you the backstory there. See, I started to realize that the limits that existed in my life, I was responsible for them being there. And see, once you can take responsibility for what is, you can take it for the next level, what will be. But unfortunately, most people are in a state of denial. And I love the acronym denial. Don't even notice I am lying. They're lying to themselves by not taking responsibility for what is. And I started to, fill my mind with positive kinds of things. I started reaching out so that I could create the kind of success. So that was my defining moment, which is listening to a cassette tape series, for those of you that remember what a cassette tape series is.
Mr. Johnny Cass.
The reason I was doing a lot of counseling is because people need help. And that's been my heart for so many years, is I want to help people. And I got so frustrated because when I would ask them, what do you hear me saying? And they would not be hearing what I was saying. So I became certified in several different personality profiles and then certified in learning styles so that I would be able to understand how to communicate to the different personalities and different learning styles because we're all different.
Right.
We were all made different, so we need to be able to communicate with each other in such a way that we hear what you're actually meaning to say. That's particularly the case in Texas, where I'm from, because there's a lot of different cultures in Texas.
Yeah.
And we can say one thing and other people may think something else.
Right.
So that's why it was so important for me to understand that. And it's helped me in the other businesses that I do now because it helps me be able to do that because I'm a helper, but I'm also a teacher. I want to help educate people in the sense of helping them understand how they can be better.
Smith.
So I absolutely positively love to follow the great Ray Higdon. And I'll tell you why more than anything. I've gone through tons of his training. I've gone to, every training he's probably ever had. I've probably taken every course he's ever done. I have that book as well. Actually, it's over there. So I've done that. But really for me, what it is it's probably been 3 or 4 years now, but he actually started doing a Ray Daily, which is a training. Yeah, which is a training he would do. And it was 9 a.m. And what I started doing was I would actually watch it or listen to it the next day while I was running. And a lot of it, more than anything, was motivational. And that's kind of, you get that mindset, you know about that. You get that mindset in your brain. You have to break certain things in your mind before you can really have success. And more than anything, that's what I learned from him, that I had certain blocks in my mind that were preventing me from getting to the next level. One of them, which I learned, was my dad loved my parents to death, but my dad had this thing, if you didn't have a 9-to-5 job Monday through Friday, it didn't count. So when I left my lab work, because I was making good money from home, to tell my parents that was one of the hardest things I ever did. And then it came out, listening to Ray Higdon all these years later about this, that was something my parents instilled with me that I had to get through, that it was okay to work 2 hours a day. Right? It was okay to do that. You know what I mean? Like, it was okay not just to do a 9-to-5, not to have the pension, not to have the retirement fund that way, and everything like that. It was okay. And once I did that, it was amazing what happened to my own business personally and what I was able to do for my audience and everything, that I was able to kind of help them realize, yes, you might be hitting that brick wall. You got to find out why that brick wall's there and break through it. And really that comes back to Ray Higdon.
Brenda.
So as Gabriella knows, back in 2015, when I was retiring from the Air Force in January, we then went on a series of seminars / workshops. So one of them was a marketing summit in Salt Lake City. It was a 3-day summit. Then we went to a Tony Robbins event. Then we went to a seminar on how to write a book and grow rich. And so that just kind of led us down a path of doing a lot of personal development and following people like Tony Robbins and Casey Eberhardt and Association and Network Marketing Professionals and a bunch of other organizations that provide awesome training to people in business. So that's kind of what inspired us and got us to where we are today and keep us motivated to keep waking up every morning and helping other businesses.
Frida Lynn.
You probably don't know, but I'm original from Taiwan, so I'm a Chinese. So we teach Confucius teaching in all through when we grow up. You in school, in newspaper, whatever from your parents there. So, although I've been here for a long time and read a lot of different books, but it seems like it's always the teaching from Confucius come up with every situation. And one phrase I absolutely love to share is, I do not do anything to others that I do not want it to be done on me. If you stick to that, okay, you are not going to do anything wrong. It's really, I think I operate in a very integral way, and and it just like go to sleep and never have to worry anything, just be authentic.
Ken Kleinberg.
You know, what's really cool about that particular question is the answer is yes. And my journey with that starts with a program called Certified Mastery Coaches. And it was through that where I worked with this guy named Jeremy, who also works with Robert Kiyosaki. And it's really cool that they work together and everything. Well, he was one of the first starting influences in my journey. And then I met somebody by the name of Mike, who then began to literally take me underneath his wing and literally get down in the dirt with me and help me to build up my mastery weight loss business into what it is today. And then as that has progressed, it's just been blooming. And the more I dive into the research that I do, the more passion I have for what I do.
Sarah Miner.
So it was actually a Facebook post, someone telling their story, which is really what a lot of us want to hear, are stories of the person behind the brand, right? Well, this woman talked about a lesson that her mother taught her from a really young age, and it helped her through life and then helped her with her own children. And that was that you can always leave. And so she was at a sleepover, and she was uncomfortable, wasn't getting along with the little girl that she was sleeping over with. And her mother said, it doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter the situation. You can always call me no matter what. If you can't get a hold of me, then wake up the parent and have them try to get a hold of me. So she did. And even the mother who had to call the little girl's mother apologized to her and said, I'm so sorry that she woke you up and that she caused all of this mess. And the mother was like, no, you have no reason to apologize. I told her that she can always leave. So coming back to now, we have to do jobs, right? That we feel like we have to just bite our tongue, not say a word, especially as women, and to keep our mouths shut. Well, no, not anymore. And as women entrepreneurs, still being a minority, a woman-owned business, we need to speak up. We need to leave if we need to leave. And we need to say we're uncomfortable. You know, that whole saying, see something, say something. When we're working with clients, a lot of the time they don't want to be sold to. And so this kind of inspired me to really reach out and find those inspirations. And Simon Sinek, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of him in the entrepreneur world, but I think if you're outside the entrepreneur world, you may not have heard of him, but he has this quote that he always says, and then he also has a TED Talk called The Why Behind Your Business. And he says that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so I'm always telling my clients that you need to think about your voice, why you're doing what you're doing, and tell that story, because that is what will get people attracted to you and what you do, because you matter. And if you need to walk away from a client, you can.
Tom Cavanaugh.
Sure. So the first person who was a major influence in my life, a gentleman by the name of Bill Bowie. He was the owner of Bowie's Pet Shop, and he was my first employer. And he acted almost as a surrogate father for me for about 5 years and taught me the huge benefit and the impact of what being in business for yourself meant, as well as how to go about making yourself financially secure for the future. And more importantly, how to communicate with people on a level where they felt they were the most important thing in the world at the time. And then as I began my learning journey when I retired, I was exposed to the concept of what's now known as photo reading. And the gentleman who created that is Dr. Paul Sheely out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And he's a partner in a company called Learning Strategies, which is where I began my learning journey. And he created in me the desire that I already have a genius mind. I can tap into that. All I have to do is learn the techniques, and everything that I've wanted my whole life was already there. I just need to learn how to access it.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. We hope you got value today. We want to give a huge shout out of gratitude to our contributors. Please make sure you click the subscribe button below, and don't forget to click the bell up above to get reminders when we add new content.